Welcome to the Firebrand Show. I'm Billy.
And I'm Ashley, and we're Next Gen pastors in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's get started. Okay, so we're talking about Gen Z, and I want to talk about something with Gen Z that kind of relates to our generation, right? It's Trend Z with Gen Z.
All right, let me get ready for this.
Okay, so...
Getting Trend Z with Gen Z.
Getting Trend Z with Gen Z. So basically, I just want to talk about trends that they have coming out that were really trends in our generation, which to put context to it, I'm just going to say 90s. I'm not going to put...
Early 2000s.
Yeah, early 2000s, 90s, early 2000s, like when we were teenagers,
Yep.
Early 2000s. And so trends that we're seeing today in Gen Z that were trends when we were teenagers back in the 90s, and whether we think that they should stay in the 90s or they should be brought to 2023.
Easy.
Okay?
Got it.
My first one for you, you're going to like it. Cargo pants.
I mean, clearly.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Cargo pants?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
I will say cargo pants now are slimmer than they used to be.
You think?
Yes.
Maybe for guys. For girls, I feel like the cargo pants are baggier. Like the pair I have, that's like kind of cargo.
Yeah.
They're baggier, but yeah.
I like cargo pants, though. I think they should come back.
You think they should come to 2023?
I think they should stay.
They should stay. All right. Cargo pants, stay.
What else we got?
All right. Bucket hats.
No. Never was a fan. That personally.
Did you ever wear one?
No. Never. I like hats.
You do.
But never wore a bucket hat. Never was a fan. Certain people can pull it off. It's like a fedora. It's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone.
And bucket hats aren't for everyone.
Yeah. Would you wear one today, like in 2023?
Honestly, I don't think I could.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Yeah.
Never say never.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think?
I would try a bucket hat today, but I also feel like I would be trying too hard. Like if I wore a bucket hat today, I feel like people would look at me and be like, are you trying? Like it's me and my 3 kids in a bucket hat. You know what I mean? Like I would put my daughter in a bucket hat who's 4.
Yeah.
Versus myself in a bucket hat.
Okay. Bucket hats, they can stay in the 90s.
Stay there.
Yeah. What else?
Crop tops.
Stay in the 90s.
Is that because you have a daughter and you don't want that to continue?
Stay in the 90s.
She's not allowed to even buy a bathing suit that is
a 2-piece. Nope.
A 2-piece. But here's the thing. We were talking earlier around the round table a little bit about this, of how like it's a good thing that crop tops for guys didn't come back. Were crop tops
Those should never have been a thing.
So they were a thing. Like I don't remember this. Maybe it just wasn't like I didn't like that on a guy. I don't know.
I just never paid attention to that if they were a thing.
Like I remember guys walking around with wife beaters that were cut in half. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like the wife beater shirts.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. Like those, like they were cut off. That was like not attractive.
No.
The
thing is with Gen Z, they just do whatever they want. Yeah. Because of how creative and just smart they are with their naps, you know? And so...
How smart they are with their naps.
They're just bringing back trends from wherever they want to bring back trends. Yeah. And so that's all right. True. Let them be them.
Yeah, let them be them.
But let the trends stay where they needed to stay.
Like in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Awesome. What do we have coming up?
So we're going to welcome in a guest that we've had previously on the show, Jacob Salguero.
Yeah.
So let's get into the main topic of today's episode.
Jacob, you are back for another episode.
Welcome back.
Man, I'm excited to be here.
Our first conversation with you was so good. We were like, we need this kid on for a second one.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're excited too. Just a quick recap of who you are. I know that they can go back and watch it in the other episode. But
so I'm a husband to an amazing wife. We've been married 4 years. Got a son, 10 months old. Little guy walking, crawling, moving. Screaming. He's just like, when we have food, he's just like, crazy. And then I make content.
I'm hungry.
No, it's crazy. Like, you pull out a cheese stick and he's like running from the other side of the room. Like,
he hears
screaming.
it like from the other side of the house.
He's like, He'll look at you with both his hands and just like shake them like, I want some cheese. But he's crazy. But and then content creation. So whatever that looks like. Sometimes it's free assets for churches. Usually it's social media. just creating for the church, pushing the church forward, and being an advocate for Gen Z. So
That's
kind of what I'm doing. That's great.
Awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah. All right. Let's dive right in. So today we want to talk about the idea of instant gratification versus delayed gratification and what that means for Gen Z as the social media generation. And so can you tell us a little bit about what you've learned and what you see from your generation?
For sure.
About how, the impact social media has had on their patience and the idea of waiting for things versus getting it right away.
Yeah, I mean, I could speak on myself. I feel like I often want the answer quick, especially when it comes to Google. I'll get arguments with my friends and be like, "You're wrong. Guess what? I'm gonna Google it." And I think there's a positive and a negative in that. So I think the positive is that Gen Z is the accountable generation. So we want when it comes to shopping, Gen Z, second after price, looks at brand integrity or brand accountability, meaning they're going to look at your price and then they're going to look at the reviews. And I think there's something interesting about when it comes to gratification, instant gratification is if you don't have accountability, you don't have credibility in your reputation, that's going to hurt you when it comes to Gen Z.
Dang.
Because they want instant credibility.
Yeah.
So if I look up your name on Google and it's nothing but scandals, why would I trust you?
Yeah, that's good.
Right? If I look up your brand and the reviews are all 1 star, they're instantly not going to trust you. You could say all the great things, you could speak great, have a great slogan, great marketing, but because your credibility is low, they're not going to really connect to that. So I think that's something dope about our generation is that they instantly want to find credibility.
Yeah.
And the gratification part, obviously, it's they can find anything they want at any moment they want. Yeah. But the issue is that they keep looking, and because there's no depth in it, then they will never find true gratification, right? So it's a form of gratification, but not true gratification in the sense of fulfilling the soul.
Yeah.
It's more of all right, I found what I wanted for that moment, but I'm going to keep looking, right? So when it comes to success, your video goes viral, you fight for your video to go viral, and the next 10 videos are clunks. Yeah. And it's you're still looking for that viral moment, still looking for that instant self-gratification, self-validation.
Yeah.
So I think the patience, obviously, of Gen Z is low. I think I've heard that the retention rate of Gen Z is less than 8 seconds.
Wild.
So, I mean, with the fast videos, fast movements, it's hard to gain my attention unless you're found credible. Yeah. And I think that's the distinction.
Wow.
I've noticed that Gen Z will sit and watch a long-form podcast of people that they find credible.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's the whole thing. It's are we accountable? Are we credible? Are we reliable? Is our reputation great? So that when Gen Z goes to search us, that's not a bunch of scandals or bad reviews or anything negative. It's, hey, these guys believe what they say, right? So it's that instant gratification is a positive and a negative.
Wow.
Okay. Let me ask you a follow-up question to that. How can they take that idea of credibility and help it translate it to their faith and finding truth in God's word and allow him to be credible in their life?
Right, for sure. I definitely see a generation going to Google and research and researching religions. So I think but the other thing is obviously the world is pushing their agenda against the church. We know that. So they're going to push different lies. And I think this is why the church needs to step up with content creation, with websites, with articles, with YouTube, because instead of the first videos being atheism videos or Buddhism videos, if we had all these churches, think about how many churches are on the planet,
right,
making content about the credibility of Christ, what would the algorithm look like?
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah.
And the issue is the algorithm right now is pushing other religions because that's what's pushing the content.
Yeah.
And we have very few Christian creators. The church really needs to step up and being we're taking over internet, taking over YouTube, taking over these streams in order for people. They're going to search this. They're going to look up who is Jesus. Is Christianity real? And we have to be out there and be this is our church. This is what we believe. And this is kind of the content we're making to show you there's credibility. The issue with that, again, we talked about it. And last time I came, it was that youth ministries and ministries use social media content for promotional instead of ministry.
Yeah.
And then think about this, you preach his gospel, God is powerful, the cross is real, Jesus is historical, and I go online and all I see is marketing.
Wow.
It's where's the credibility?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I think that's kind of been where we're at when it comes to the church is there's definitely sources out there, right? But if my church, people who are local next to me, not pushing that, giving it to me, resourcing it, if my own church is not doing it, how am I going to find it when the world's already pushing a negative algorithm? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think of even like you're talking about like kind of inundating the social space. Like I think back, I was having this conversation with some of our youth students, like back when I was in youth group, there were so many Christian music artists that weren't worship leaders to listen to. There's none. Very, very few today. Like I could spout out like 10 or 15, Toby Mac, Reliant K. Like I could go off on Christian artists that weren't worship focused bands that were out there inundating that space. And today, you can't find it.
For sure.
You can't find them. It's the same with social media, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
right?
I think we have the means financially to do it though.
Yeah.
I think
we
as a
can
church.
do it. Yeah.
As a church. It's just, my friend always tells me love controls time. And I also think love controls money. And what you love will control what you contribute to.
Yeah.
And I think if we really love a generation, we're going to contribute financially and like time, intentionality into creating content, creating mediums to reach them. But what we have done is that we are really good with loving the past generation that's sitting in front of us. And we forget, I think we were talking about earlier about like the window of young people who come to meet Jesus. It's so, like, the harvest is right, but the laborers are few.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like so much. There's this like thought of like, dang, that's a lot of pressure, but that's real.
Yeah,
that's so real. Like it's so hard to find people that want to not just do youth ministry to be in youth ministry, even just for a platform's sake, but like actually pour into these kids' lives. Again, back to our last episode,
for sure.
Like wanting to actually put attention into building community with teenagers and put their life into showing up in their life and not just being on a platform. And I mean, you're so right. Yeah. That's a whole other conversation.
And I mean, that's why I started my social media thing. Like, God told me, and like, you can't love a generation you don't know. Yeah. So that's why I began to study it. And my strategies like turned into like, my stats that I found turned to strategies.
That's good.
And those strategies turned to stories. Yeah. And we grew a youth group, but not just grew it, but like made it healthy, made disciples, built a community so that when I left that ministry, the same amount of people were there. It grew, and those people still followed Jesus because of us being strategic in what we were doing. So
that's good. I kind of want to touch on, you know, the statement we have behind us of the mindset of Gen Z and this instant gratification, that kind of stuff. What do you see the mindset of Gen Z being, knowing that instant gratification is really what we're pulling on here? Like it's really what they're pursuing, but how does that impact their mindset?
Yeah, I always say that Gen Z is very creative. So like they want instant creative. You have one chance like to really get their eye or they're not going to trust you again. Yeah. So if we see you as a church or a ministry and you have very whack, you know, creative, it's going to like kind of have a trust barrier there. So I think that's something that's important. It's creative. And I think the mindset of Gen Z, again, they want to connect to you locally too. Like I think when a Gen Zer sees that's an influencer that's in their city, that's something that's really important. Like I have access to these people, right? They're approachable. I think the stat is like 45% of Gen Z wants to talk to somebody other than their parents about their mental health and their issues. Yeah. So oftentimes what happens is they connect to this influencer who's talking about publicly about their issues, and they'll make in the comments, oh, I've been going through this too. Wow. And that's their medium of connecting. Wow. And that's that instant gratification because they released the garbage, but never really got healed. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I think I do see a generation really releasing a lot of stuff online, but never getting to the root because they never met with somebody that's approachable. Yeah. So that's why I feel like there's a new wave of creators, hopefully, that's like me. I want to be approachable. I want to be able to be in my city. You can meet me, these kind of things, right? Yeah. Obviously, it's not hard to scale. I mean, it's hard to scale, but you got to do the things that are not scalable to reach a generation. So Gen Z wants people who are creative. They want people that are approachable, and that instant gratification, they want someone to like hear them. Yeah. What we've done is like Gen Z spews their like what their vomit in a sense, their issues, and we give them a 6-point sermon back. Yeah. Sometimes the best sermons is silence. Yeah. Right? It's just me sitting there present and listening. Yeah. And I think that's something that we need to train our leaders, parents, aunts, whoever it is, like just lean in and listen. Yeah. Don't be so quick to give a response. And I feel like a lot of Gen Zers are beginning to trust the older generation again. in that sense. So
that's really good. Yeah. Yeah. I even think back to like when I was in youth, it meant so much more for someone to sit and just talk to me or sit and listen to me than to sit and talk to me and tell me how to live my life. Right. I also want to see them model it. And I think that's a lot of what Gen Z wants. They want to see you live your life. Like they don't want to just see you posting online. They want to see how you are offline. Right. And so again, it goes back to that instant gratification. Like, yes, they're trusting you, but then they want to build credibility with you. Offline too. When it comes to people that they actually know.
That credibility is huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Like when I saw that stat about it being the second like most important thing other than price, is like, man, you're really reading these Amazon reviews. Right? And not just like Amazon. I'm reading preachers' reviews. Dang. Like I'm reading your life. Are you in a green room before service or are you in the front room? Yeah. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like we're noticing these things. Are you credible? You pray, you love the lost, but we don't do outreaches to the lost. You love the poor, but you're wearing certain types of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the credibility.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good.
Yeah. I'm reminded of experiment. It's been going on for years. The idea of putting a kid in front of a marshmallow, telling them, I'll be back in 15 minutes. Don't eat this. If you don't, I'll give you another one.
For sure.
Yeah. And parents have done it with like M&Ms and Skittles.
It's so the idea of rewarding people who have the desire to wait and knowing that there's something more coming. How do you see Gen Z using that to their benefit and knowing that there's more if they can wait on God or if they can wait on and learn to grow in long-term success?
Yeah, my biggest complaint to Gen Z is that they lack long suffering. That's my biggest complaint. But I don't think it's their fault also. Obviously, it's the culture we're in. But we also taught, like, in the church, get your blessing now. Get your miracle now. Hit that next, come up to the altar and you get your next level now. And we taught our generation that you can reach the next thing now when Jesus waited 30 years for his next thing. When David was a shepherd before he was a king. And I think biblically, long suffering is the trait of a great leader. Long suffering is a trait of a great Christian. And I think we haven't taught our generation long suffering. It's like, yes, God can heal you now, but sometimes it could be a long time. And sometimes it's emotional scars. And sometimes, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and I talk about it on Instagram, but I was like, like Jesus was a carpenter grinding it out for years, knowing his capacity, knowing his capability, and willing to wait to be kinged. And that's my generation struggles with long suffering. One, because of society, and also because the church's message. And how do we like combat that is showing people's lives, like teaching about long suffering, the fruit. And then I think us three can all speak on, like, we've had long seasons of long suffering before God put us on a platform. And I think, and I always try to I always on my social media, I'm like, dude, I used to work at a cookie shop. Then I worked construction. I used to preach in front of 4 kids before I had 28,000 followers, right? And like always talking about it because I want people to understand, like, it's okay to long suffer. And God will honor you in your 9 to 5, in your Smoothie King, in your Starbucks, in your Dunkin' Donuts. He wants to honor you there. He wants to use you there. And if you're not willing to, like, and that's why I want to teach a generation, but like, if you're not willing to, man, like, it's going to be a hard road because these long suffering moments are the moments where God builds you, right? So.
That's what I was going to say is like these long suffering moments are so important for the future success. In what you were saying with the marshmallows, like it's so important for your future success. Without it, you won't have the tools to be able to have the capacity to do that season well. Right? Like if Jesus wasn't a carpenter, what would he have missed out on? For his ministry, right? Like, I often think, like, if Jesus wasn't a carpenter, would he have lived in the temple and then sought off the platform? I don't think he would because he's Jesus. But do you know what I mean? Like, just the thought.
He was preparing something natural for supernatural because what's his job now? His job description is to build the church.
He's still a carpenter.
He was still a carpenter.
He's still a carpenter.
Just in a different capacity. Right? And I think that's crazy to think about. But I think the whole thing about the marshmallow is that, like, the patience is the lesson, not really like this experiment. It's like teaching your student, like teaching your kid to wait. But what I do notice is the reason why my generation is struggling with heavy anxiety, heavy depression, loneliness. Like our generation's a mental illness generation. Why is because that instant gratification thing. I see online, you know, Kylie Jenner being the first 21-year-old Gen Z billionaire, and I'm sitting here working at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, and it's like it's that comparison thing too, where it's like I can see people who are instantly getting famous, instantly becoming millionaires through TikTok, Instagram, and I'm sitting here as just a regular school kid. No one knows my name.
Yeah.
So there's that balance too, where it's like the comparison thing, but it's really like other people are getting instantly succeeding, and they don't understand that those, like, I think the Bible says that inheritance gained like fast goes to waste.
Yeah.
And the idea is that we do got to see a generation that the best inheritance, the best success, the best influence is when you're built up.
Yeah.
Because then you can sustain that for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Instead of just fall off like a lot of these influencers do. And we've seen a ton of like really famous people who, you know, get famous fast, like choose to end their life and choose to, you know, go into certain things because of that, because of the instant success. The influence gained like fast will always destroy you at the end.
Not knowing how to long suffer takes away your ability to suffer well.
Yeah.
Right? Whew. Like, it takes away the ability for when you don't get that instant. That's why anxiety is so high. Wow. Like, you don't know how to long suffer, so you don't know how to suffer well.
Wow. Yeah.
So when you see Gen Z or you see anybody struggling with mental health, my question is, have you learned how to suffer well? Right? Because life is hard. Life sucks. It's like the Lord never promised that because we get saved or because we trust him, that life is good. But we can suffer with him, and that's the difference. And that's the missing element in humanity, but very prevalent in Gen Z, absolutely. But in humanity alone, I mean, we don't know how to suffer well.
Right.
And then we just become anxious, and mental health stirs up, and, you know, comparison stirs up, and that instant gratification is just, man, it guts us.
And that's
really
why we need the older generation.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I need to see more 80-year marriages.
Yep.
Like, and the issue is that because older generation isn't on social media, obviously, because they're older, we don't get to hear these stories.
No, yeah.
And I think that's
unless you read about it in the history books, right? Like,
and even in church, we don't platform those stories or create moments to like share, like, hey, like this guy worked in a refinery for 50 years, but he told this person about Jesus, and he made his disciples, and like, we don't share those stories. And I don't think we need to platform those voices in our church. We need to raise up those people to lead, you know, small groups or classes or whatever, to show like you can have a long marriage, you can work at the same job and be fruitful. And I think the older generation needs to, hey, you still have a voice in this game. You may feel like you're, you know, 40, 50, 60 or whatever, and be like, you still got cards to play. Is your story the long suffering that our generation needs.
Well, without their voice, history isn't established, right? Like,
that's true.
It's just there. And so them speaking it into, whether it's their grandkids or their kids who speak into their grandkids or the youth around them, like share those stories. Those are wins. So.
Yeah. We talked about some of the struggles that Gen Z faces with, you know, the idea of social media controlling their lives. But what's something that you see that the church can learn from Gen Z, that they can offer to, you know, the church that maybe the older generations can't offer?
Yeah, definitely digital community is like, because we've talked about this, that in past you could separate the realities, where it's like life and social media are like separate realities. Now it's combined realities. And I think that's something that the church needs to understand, that the fact that you could reach someone 24/7, you should be jumping up and down. Because in the past, we're like, how can we get more people involved? How we can get them in church? How can we teach them? So you have Bible study on Tuesday, like old school church, right? Bible study on Tuesday, revival night, worship night, right? Old school church. We could have that online. And I think what we totally missed the mark of the church. In 2020, while the rest of the world pushed more content, spent more money on equipment, went crazy on creating content, teaching videos to push their agenda, the church just continued to be silent. And it was like, we're just still trying to sustain a service. When like we could have been teaching Bible, speaking to cultural issues, creating media groups, like that's what we could have done. So I think older generations need to understand, like, it's more than a service. Like, we can reach people all the time, 24/7. And this digital medium is what Gen Z has locked down. Like,
that's good.
That I can make a community online, and they're actually real, and they actually, some of them even pour into me, and that can translate to the real world. Like we see
that's
movements like Living Room Movement. I don't know if you've heard of them, but like literally online based. Then they meet in houses all over the country leading worship nights.
That's wild.
Gen Zers.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's crazy.
Really possible. Yeah,
So
imagine what it could look like, right? If we actually did that. I think of like the kids in the middle of the night, they're scrolling with super anxious thoughts. Like church could be showing up on their TikTok.
But it's just false identities, false truths,
false narratives,
lies.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like
Crazy.
for every lie, you get one preaching clip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's wild.
You get one sponsored ad of kids jumping up and down in the service.
Yeah.
But then I got 5, 6, 7 teaching videos.
Yeah.
And you're like, why the generation doesn't love the church?
Yeah.
Because the reviews aren't great.
Right.
I look online, the credibility isn't what
It's
you're
just not
talking
there,
about.
yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah, no, that's really good.
the mindset of Gen Z.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, of
honestly,
course.
it's such a good conversation. Before we do leave, last time you were on, we talked about coffee versus Red Bull. I think it's important to know what your choice in the debate is
For
and
sure.
what you pick, coffee or Red Bull, and why.
It's easy. Coffee.
Well done. Good
why?
answer.
Why? Because God created it.
It's so
Simple
good.
as that.
It's a bean
It's
from the
straight
earth.
from the mind of God,
Yes, it is.
right? All
You
you, gotta
called-
do is roast it and put water in it.
Yeah,
You're
you
done.
called Red Bull gasoline, and I was like, that is such facts. Go look at those ingredients.
Like God, I mean, God creates oil, whatever, but like, if you look at the ingredients and just straight espresso, coffee, and then look at our Red Bull,
Yeah.
and it's astonishing.
Yep.
That's all right.
One gives cancer, one gives happiness.
Oh, that's so true. Are you ready to come to the dark side yet,
No,
Billy?
I respect your decisions, but I'm gonna
One
stick. I'm gonna
day.
stick right here.
One day, maybe for his 40th birthday, which is not for a while, just putting it out there, but maybe for then. Maybe for then, I'll get you to drink some coffee.
Yeah.
Wow, that's the mission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's a goal.
you put out some great content for Gen Zers. So where can they follow you to get some good, healthy examples of how to impact the world?
Yeah, so my social media is Jacob Salguero, spelled Salguero. Then you can find me on Church Convos on YouTube, just starting that out. And then my website, jacobmouse.com, has free resources, free books, free assets for any young creative designer. Tons of free stuff for the church. And we're going to come out with a Gen Z University soon. That's going to be on there.
Awesome.
That's great.
It's an 8-hour course just on Gen Z, all for free.
Sign us up.
I know. It's all free, trying to push the church forward. So connect with me on social. I'm on there like more than anything. So
That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
appreciate you
Thank
guys.
you,
Yeah,
Jacob.
thank you. Thanks for coming.
We'd like to thank Jacob for joining us this week on our episode, and we'd like to thank you guys for watching and listening.
Go ahead and find us on all the social media platforms and give us a follow and comment and tell us how much you're loving the content that's being put out. But we will see you on our next episode.